Remarkable people overcoming remarkable challenges with resilience, dedication, community, and grit. Listen as they share their stories of overcoming adversity. Open your eyes to what is genuinely possible for all of us. Authentic Adversity with host Chris Howe.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Authentic Adversity podcast. Today I sit down with Richard Macias, or Coach Warpath. He's an online coach that works in fitness, mindset, and nutrition. He's a motivator and, just an all-around inspirational guy. Richard, I want to thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast and chat with us.
Likewise, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. It's been really cool to, you're somebody, this is the first time we've actually talked face to face, even though it's through a screen, but you're a person that I feel I've connected with. And that's kind of the beauty of social media. When I come across accounts like yours, that I can really sink my teeth into and, get inspired by every day. I really appreciate it. And something about you, and I imagine you're this way with everybody, but you respond to every message. You're super thoughtful in your responses. You're very caring. You're just, all around motivating and encouraging with everything you put out. So I just want to say I appreciate you and I appreciate everything you put out.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I try to, I respond to every single message, and people are sometimes surprised. Like, is this really you? I'm like, yeah, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a normal guy, right? So
sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. And it speaks to your character. And I imagine that's one of the reasons you're so successful in your coaching career. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about early life for you. So where you're from, what was it like environmentally growing up, maybe any obstacles you had to overcome in early childhood or, up until maybe teen years. So maybe you can kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Southern California, the Inland Empire. I was born in San Bernardino, California. Grew up in the Inland Empire, moved around a little bit, but mainly from the Riverside County, San Bernardino County area there. And growing up, it was pretty normal as far as my childhood. I was into sports. I have a little brother, a little sister. We're all about 5 years apart. So there's three of us total. And then, of course, my mom and dad. And at a very young age, grew up in the household where, my parents were young, right? So they were figuring stuff out as they were going. So they had me when they were about 18 or 19 years old. So, growing up, man, I saw a lot of stuff as far as just hanging out, partying. My family, they love to party, the typical Mexican family, right?
Yeah.
We have birthday parties for kids and there we are drinking and stuff like that. So there's more alcohol than juice sometimes there at the parties, So I grew up kind of like that. But like I said, I was into sports. That's what kind of kept me going, kept me grounded. My parents were really good parents when it came to us, the kids. Very supportive. My dad was always involved with our sports, coaching. Same thing with my mom. She would always be making us breakfast before games, stuff like that. But their relationship kind of wasn't the best, right? And so they went through their troubles and stuff like that. But growing up, it was cool. Everything was good for the most part. Looking in, sometimes, of course, like any relationship, parents are gonna fight, right? And we saw that more than often, and just dealing with that growing up. I remember, having to leave, go live with my grandpa, go live with my grandma for a little bit, and just kind of be separated and kind of wondering what's going on, kind of figuring out what's really happening in the house at a young age.
Right.
So eventually that led them to kind of splitting up, but they still kept in contact as far as I was always seeing my dad, always seeing my mom, that type of thing. But it was just kind of one of those households that was just, in a way, just not, it was stable, but not, I don't know how to explain it. Just, it wasn't, I just saw a lot of fighting, right? I saw a lot of adversity going through the house and stuff like that.
For sure.
So that's what kind of, and then of course the partying too, right? So I was looking at that, seeing my dad party, my mom party, and that of course sparked an interest in me. And I remember drinking at a very young age. I remember like 5 years old, man, just getting my dad's beers at the end. He'd tell me, go get another one. I was drinking the rest of it. So
Right.
there was a particular, you know how that goes, man. Go get me a
I
beer, and then
do.
you drink the rest of it. Yeah,
Right,
dude. So
right.
one night, man, I was pretty buzzed, at like 5 years old, just from doing that alone, and got a stomach ache, threw up
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. And I think that right there is kind of what sparked something in me, not knowing it at the time, but I
Sure.
think that's honestly where my addiction came from, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I was born and raised in Cali. It's just one of those things, just living the lifestyle and trying to figure out my place. Really, that's where I was.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how we want to emulate our parents a little bit, and when we see them taking a drink, we think that's what the adults do, and let me see what that's all
Hmm.
about, and not knowing what to expect, but yeah, it bites a lot of us at an early age for sure.
Right.
So would you say sports were keeping you somewhat out of trouble for a period of time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Monday through Friday, I was busy with practice. On the weekends, we had our games, stuff like that, which was cool. It kept me out of the house sometimes whenever stuff was going on. That was
Right.
my outlet right there.
Okay.
I always pursued sports. But growing up, my parents, they did end up splitting off, divorcing when I was around 16 years old, 15 or 16. At that
Okay.
point, I completely kind of stopped finding interest in the sports, and
Right.
that's when I kind of went downhill. That's when I started hanging around, a different crowd, started kind of experimenting with, weed and drugs and alcohol, and just living like that party life to just escape, I guess, what I
Right.
was going through at the time. And
Yeah.
at the time of doing it, I really didn't think that I had an issue. I didn't think that it was a problem. But now looking back at it, it was like, man, I was escaping from something. I was trying to hide something. I always grew up too as a chunkier kid too. Like I was always that husky kid, right? So
Okay.
like playing sports and football, you have to make a certain weight in order to play with your age division.
Right.
Same
Right.
thing with wrestling, So I remember struggling with that at a very early age as far as my weight was concerned. So I think that also
Okay.
had something to do with how I just felt about myself. I just
Right.
wasn't
Some
I wasn't
insecurities and that
completely
sort of
happy.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
my nickname was Chunkers growing up, man. Like that's what everybody called me, So like
Really?
that was already in me, like, oh, I'm fat, like I'm this chunky kid.
Yeah.
So just like a lot of little things just kind of added up to where now that I'm at the point that I'm at, I'm able to reflect on it and kind of say, like, okay, maybe that's why I was acting the way I was, but that's
Right.
no excuse on a lot of the stuff that I did while I
Sure.
was, into my addictions and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, we don't know what we don't know at the time, right?
Hmm.
We're kids, and we're doing our thing, and I mean, it's very similar to me. Things went really wild for me when my parents split up, and that's when I dove headfirst into the world of drugs and alcohol and crime and everything that came along with it. So, I for sure can relate to what you say about it being escape. I think that all of us who end up with a drinking problem or a drug problem, we're not doing it just because we love the feeling. We are trying to escape our reality or our past.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you feel different, right? It's like you're escaping, but then you kind of do fall in love with that feeling because it's not you. So it's
Right.
like, cool, I don't get to be myself for a little bit. That means I don't have to feel what I'm going through. So
Right.
I did fall in love with like the feeling of like,
Hmm.
wow, I like this. I like the head change. I like the high that it gives me. And
Right.
then once it's gone, I'm there looking for another head change.
Right. So that's your teen years. And so moving forward from that, are you kind of like after high school, do you dive deeper into the drinking and drug use, or like how does that go for you?
Yeah, like once I hit 16 years old, I kind of stopped
Hmm.
with the sports. I played here and there, but I wasn't really serious about it,
Right.
and like deep down that kind of hurt me in a way because I didn't see myself going that route. Like in
Yeah.
my head, when you're growing up, you're going to be a professional athlete. You're going to play sports the rest of your life. Now here
Yeah.
I was at a very young age, 16, giving it up in a way. I moved out of my house when I was about 17 years old and started
Okay.
living with friends and stuff like that just to escape the house. I thought I knew it all. So I wanted to try it. I was still going to school, but I wanted to do stuff on my own. I
Right.
didn't want to be controlled anymore. So that led to a bunch of, I got arrested a few times, caught the DUIs. So just that period between like 17 to like maybe 20, it was all just getting in trouble. It was just causing a scene, diving deeper into the alcohol. That was my main thing. I did try other stuff. I smoked weed and stuff like that occasionally, but alcohol was what got me into the most trouble.
I
That's
think
what
it's that
really
way for a
affected
lot
me.
of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so open nowadays, like nowadays you look on TV, there's commercials, with alcohol, beer commercials showing everybody having fun. But in reality, that's not really the case. You know what I
It's
mean?
not.
There's a
Yeah.
lot more harm than good. And that's what kids see is like, oh, cool, they're at the beach, they're having Coronas. But in reality, that's not what happens all the time.
Well, the commercial doesn't play long enough to see the hangover and the fight with the wife and the kids and this and that afterwards, right? It's like,
Yeah.
We're all in love with that idea of like, yes, the after 3 drinks feeling, but then what happens, and then the come
Right.
down and everything like that. I talked to somebody else about this, and it really is wild how, kind of like big alcohol just like paints a picture for us. But like, could you imagine if we were doing that if there was a company doing that for heroin or
Right.
for, it just doesn't make any sense. It's the
Right.
one of the most dangerous drugs out there, alcohol. It kills the most people, I believe. And people are making the dumbest decisions, or, you know what I mean, making the biggest mistakes while under the influence of alcohol, but yet it's so socially acceptable. It's wild. This episode of the Authentic Adversity podcast is brought to you and sponsored by Another Road Drug and Alcohol Treatment Center. Another Road offers a client-centered recovery program tailored to every individual's circumstances. Their focus is to create a supportive, healing environment rather than a rigid, rule-based institution. Their dedicated commitment upholds the individual values respecting each person's desire for recovery. Another Road understands that every individual requires a unique and focused approach to their recovery. Certain modalities of treatment are introduced along with the tools necessary for each client. Located in a rural setting, their addiction treatment center for all genders provides the perfect setting for a transformative recovery experience and sense of belonging. The private residential treatment facility offers an unparalleled program with counselors that have in-depth knowledge based on varying years of experience in addiction. Another Road utilizes unique individual focus plans for recovery that address the complexities of drug addiction, alcoholism, and prescription medication misuse. They have a 65% success rate when clients follow their program. I know many people who have completed this program, and they have absolutely rave reviews. To learn more, visit anotherroad.ca. Okay, so for you then, you're deep into it. You've been thrown in jail a couple times. Is there any thought in your mind at that time, like, okay, I know, because when stuff like that was happening to me, I would make promises to myself, like, this is the last time, I'll never do it again, and I'm gonna change my life and get me out of this jam. And I'm praying to who knows who, and I always wanted to come up with these. I always had these grand plans to stop drinking and change my life, but inevitably it always ended up the same. I always ended up more fucked up, in more trouble, and the scale kept going down and down and down from there. How about you?
Same exact thing, man. I would promise the
Yeah.
world, I'd get in trouble. I'd have a weekend where I was completely blacked out. And it always sucked, man, hearing those stories of who I was or how I acted during those
Right.
times, right? Like me just hearing from other people, dude, you were so fucked up. Like, do you remember doing this? Do you remember doing that? And me,
Yeah.
I'm like, I kind of like embarrassed in a way to where I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
I remember that. But deep down inside, I'm like, dude, I have no idea that I did that. Like, I'm so embarrassed right now. Just hearing that I put somebody through something or I said something I didn't mean, because that's not me, like
Right.
me sober is a whole different person than me fucked up drunk, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it was just like holy shit, man, like I'm stopping. I'm never gonna do this shit again. I need to calm down. I figured I had an issue, but then I didn't know how bad it was. I thought,
Right.
okay, I just won't drink during the week. On the weekends, I'll have a few beers. It was never like, let me completely stop. I need to stop. I'm somebody that just can't have alcohol. No, it was
Yeah.
always like that thought of like, maybe I could just limit myself to one or two and then kind of go
Hmm.
from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And it was
I
never that
really do.
case. Yeah. And it was never that case, bro.
That was my thing. I'd always try to manipulate my problem. It's like, okay, no, that was the hard liquor. I'm just gonna stick to beer, or I'm gonna drink
Yeah.
only on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then and like drinking no drugs or drugs no drinking. It was always these little manipulations, and like I said, inevitably, I always ended up in the same place, and all the signs were there for a long time before I really got serious about like, okay, I need a change. Um,
Yeah.
for you, what led you there to the place that you knew you needed to change?
I struggled, man, for years on end, just playing that
Hmm.
game of I'm gonna stop, trying to quit, then going back. I literally probably did that for like a good like 6 or 7 years of
Okay.
constantly failing, constantly getting into trouble, stopping for a little bit. I would stop for like a month and then I'd go right back into it. And even worse than when I landed the first time, right? So I would stop for a
Right.
little bit and then I'd go back, and then that time was worse than the last time that I said I was going to stop. I
Right.
got into more issues or drank more. I was more of like that binge drinker where it's like, okay, cool. Monday through Friday, I'll be cool. And then on the weekend, I'll drink. But then when I drank, I fucking drank. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
made sure. hmm
for
So,
sure.
like,
I mean, it's
growing
like
up,
making up for lost time or something like that. I think a lot of
right.
people don't recognize that about, binge drinking. The people that go to work and keep it together, and they call themselves functioning alcoholics because they can
hmm
get up and go to work Monday to Friday, but then it all falls apart on the weekend. And, it's still problem drinking, and people trick themselves. They,
Right.
they
And
really
sometimes
do.
that's
Yeah.
worse. That's
Yeah,
worse right there because you do really, drink so much that it's just not even healthy for your body. Like that's where you can mess yourself up by
for
consuming
sure.
so much in a short amount of time, rather than
Yeah,
somebody that drinks every day. Yes, they drink every day, but they kind of aren't drinking as much.
that's right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that was me, that I always had a job. Like I was a hustler, man. I always had money. I always had income coming in. I was a
Hmm.
father at a very young age. I had my kids at 20, 21.
Okay.
So I had to support my family, and I knew that.
Right.
That was coming from my dad. My dad taught me that. My dad
Okay.
always hustled. He always held down a job, no matter what issues he had, no matter what he did. He always took
Yeah.
care of us. He always
Right.
provided for us. I always had clothes. I always had food. That wasn't the issue. And that's what I took from that. I always made sure I took care of my people, but
Right.
was I really taking care of them? Right, just by providing them with the food and a roof over their head. But then me drinking and kind of not being that father that I needed to be, I really wasn't. I was just kind of providing the necessary stuff and leaving out what really mattered.
Like you're giving the
Yeah,
essentials. Here's the essentials to live, but what about the emotional component and the father son time, the father daughter time, like all that
yeah.
stuff that the kids really need, right?
hmm
And I just wanted to say real quick, like I really appreciate that about you because you are such a family man, and you talk about your people being your family all the time, and a lot of your social media, you're very open and honest about how how you've hurt them in the past, and how today is so much different. And I just wanted to applaud you for that because that's something that's really important to me, and to hear somebody like yourself talking about this openly and honestly, and giving people like the straight goods, not bullshitting, like, yeah, we're a happy family, we've always been this way. Like, this takes work.
Right.
It's I do really appreciate that about you. It really stands out to me.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't always been this person, and I want to make that clear that you could be somebody that you're not proud of, but if you take the steps and if you put in the damn work, you can change. Like change is
Hmm.
possible, but it's going to take
Yeah.
work, right? It's going to take you willing to want to do it. So,
Right.
kind of backing up a little bit to your question, like what really made me change? That's it right there. My family did.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
knew I wasn't providing that best person to them, especially my daughter. My wife.
Yeah.
My wife's been with me from day one, man. Like literally, we have spent every single day together, through the good, through the bad, and everything in between. you know?
She stuck
So
beside you.
she stuck beside me, you know, and she's the opposite.
Amazing.
She's somebody that can have a drink and be completely fine. And then she's with
Oh,
this
yeah?
guy that, yeah, and then she's with this guy that can't, right? So it's like
Okay.
she couldn't really see it at the beginning. She was like, why
Right.
can't you just stop? And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know. You know what I mean? Like it kind of plays like that fight, that feud, because not that she like she just couldn't see it because she can stop. She doesn't drink, you know, she's
Yeah.
completely sober as well. But back
Mhm.
then we were drinking together, you know, and
Right.
I was the problem all the time. And I always
Yeah.
envied those people that could have one or two drinks and then be done. I'm like, how the
Right.
hell can you guys do that? You know, like one or two
I
drinks,
know.
that's just getting started, man. Like that's nothing. Like I used to pregame before parties. You know what I mean? Have
For
you ever
sure.
done that?
For
Like drink a
sure.
couple and then go to the party? That was
All the
me.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. So like
For sure. I could definitely relate to that. That I used to look at those people that used to be like, I'm gonna go watch a football game on Sunday, but I'll go home at 5. And
yeah.
I'm like, what? You're going home now? Like this is just getting good. Let's, and I'd watch people come and go and come and go, and I would sit at the bar. I would be the
Yeah.
permanent fixture, and I would see people, the like quote unquote normal people, coming
Right.
in
Right.
having one or two drinks, and I'm like, I don't get this guy. I don't get this girl. What? One or two drinks?
Yeah.
Like, where are they going
That's
next?
it.
They must be going somewhere else. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta be.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So like, you know, she was like that, and that's really what kind of kept me like, dude, like I can't be like that, you know, like I
yeah,
wish I could, but that's not me. I'm gonna go get drunk and stuff like that. So what really made me change was my family, man, ultimately was taking all the bad negative stuff from me drinking. Me, I'd get drunk, I'd black out, I'd wake up and then repeat it, right? To me,
right,
it was just another day in my life. That's just what I did, who I was. But I was
right,
affecting my family the most. You know,
yeah,
they were the ones taking all the negativity, all the shit that I said to my wife, all the stuff that I would do, you know, like
hmm,
we'd bicker and fight about it. She'd tell me to stop. And that right there sparked something in me to where I was already drinking. Don't fucking tell me what to do. You know what I mean? Like
sure,
when we start fighting, then we start saying stuff to each other. That creates an argument. So the drinking was always something that kind of was put in the middle of us and why our
yeah,
relationship could have never went forward. You know, if it
right,
wasn't for me stopping, honestly, we probably wouldn't be together because we just weren't capable of it. You know, like that relationship
right,
just wouldn't work unless I was completely sober. And a lot of
yeah,
people don't they don't think that way. They think they could still drink and then have their wife, have their kids. Sometimes that's out of the question. You got to pick and choose. Which one do you want? Do you want to be
for sure,
drinking or do you want your family? Because you can't have
yeah,
it both. Some people can. I'm not one of those guys, you know? And
right,
that's okay if you're not one of those guys. Like you just have a different purpose, right? Like and that's
very
the
true,
hard part, you know, that's the hard part for people to really realize. So yeah, what really led me to change, man, was my wife had enough of it. You know, by this time
okay,
we had 4 kids. And so throughout the years, I was drinking, doing my stuff, promising her the world, stopping for
yeah,
a little bit, going to AA, getting help. That shit never worked for me. None of it.
hmm,
I would always go back. Okay. So she had enough of it. And she's like, I got to go. I'm out of here. I'm dipping. Right. I didn't think nothing of it. Didn't take it light, or I took it lightly pretty much, and
right,
continued my ways. And until one day I came home, and everything was gone. You know, all their clothes was gone. The pictures on the walls were bare.
wow,
Just looking around, going by, you know, room by room, just like thinking, like, what the heck just happened? And my heart just sunk right then and there because I knew what was coming, and it finally came. Right, and
yeah,
I was going into like my daughter's room, man, and just searching like for any little clue of what's going on. But I knew deep down inside they already had enough of my stuff. Even my kids were trying to tell me, Dad, can you please stop drinking? Like we don't
oh
like our
wow,
daddy when he's
yeah,
drunk, you know, we don't like, and me like, oh, I got you, like just don't worry, you know, like trying to ease their mind, but like never
right,
listening to it. I was so
yeah,
selfish, man, in that regard that like during my time of drinking, I didn't care what anybody else felt. As long as I felt good, that's it. I didn't
yeah,
care, right? So it's like I'm your dad. I'm gonna do what I want to do. You just kind of gotta deal with it. And that's what we do as, you know, men or adults. When our kids, all of our kids want a sober parent, whether they say it or not, they want you to be you. They love you for who you are. Not when you're drunk,
Absolutely.
not when you're over here telling you, I love you. You know, you ever got drunk and then tell everybody, I love you, you know, get that happy drunk.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude,
Yeah.
like, get away from me, man. Like, you're fucked up,
Yeah.
you're drunk. I don't even feel the love that you're saying that you have for me, because that's the
Right.
alcohol talking, you know? So,
And kids can recognize that too. You're right. I
yeah.
love that you said that every kid wants a sober parent. I that is
Hmm.
so true. Yeah. I
Yeah.
appreciate that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Sorry to
and my
interrupt you, man.
no, you're fine. No, and that's the thing that I wasn't listening to, you know. So I knew deep down inside, okay, that time came. Everybody's had enough of my crap already.
Right.
And what killed me the most, man, was seeing my daughter's blanket right there on the floor. And this blanket was
Mm,
everything to her. Like, she needed this blanket to fall asleep. She was her comfort blanket. Wherever she went, she had to have this
right.
blanket. And that blanket was on the floor, and I'm over here bawling, crying on
Oh,
my knees, like, just with this blanket, holding it, man. Just like, I'm the reason why my daughter doesn't have this damn blanket. You know what I mean? She had
yeah.
to get up and leave. Like, who knows what was going through their head when they were getting packed up
Right.
to hurry up because dad was coming home, and they didn't want to be. My wife already knew I was going to beg her to stay. You know, I was going to sit her down, please just stay, put the bags down, like, let's work it out, right? Promising her the world. So she had to leave when I wasn't there, because that's the only way that she would have had a way out, or else I would have tried to be like, please, let's just work it out. You know, the kids would have been there seeing it.
Right.
And so she had to do what she did. And now that I see that, like, that was the best thing that she could have done. And I'm so happy that she did that now, because that's what got me to change. You know, it had to take that
Right.
drastic move of her leaving, knowing damn well she loved me. She wanted it to work, but she's like, no, I can't. So in a way, I felt like she did that for me in a way. Like, she loves me so much that she wants me to
Yeah.
stop drinking, and she would rather risk her marriage from failing and leave just to see me change, you know? And that's the way I look at it
Wow.
now, man. And it was so hard just seeing that, man, just seeing that blanket on the floor and just crying, like, I did this. I'm the one who separated my family,
Yeah.
you know? And that's what hurt me the most, man.
Right.
That's
Right.
what got me to change that day.
Yeah. It's really I mean, I can't imagine that feeling, but I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact that sometimes, looking back at our sort of rock bottom moment, we could be grateful for it, right?
Hmm.
Like that was the hardest thing you had to ever go through and deal with emotionally, but that's what that was the spark for you.
Yeah.
That's what got you to say, okay, enough's enough. Richard's got to change.
Hmm. Yeah, all the DUIs, going to jail, none of it changed me, but that did right there. You know, and in order to
Yeah.
remove a habit, you have to find something that you love more than the habit in order for you to want to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I love my family more than anything in the world. So that is right there what sparked that fire of like, dude, you have an issue. You need to do something, because are you going to be that father where your kids are going to grow up, they're going to have the same issues that you're going through, and then they're going to blame it on you, right? Like, I can't
Right.
have that.
Stop the cycle.
Yeah, yeah, I have to
Yeah.
stop it now, you
Yeah.
know. And I've been the one to
Right.
stop it so far, you know. And it ends with me and my wife, you know. We've made a pact on that. We've told each other everything stops now. You know, our whole family, we don't have an inheritance. We don't come from a silver
Yeah.
spoon in our mouth. We don't have no businesses to fall back on, but that stops now with us. And that's why we work so hard
Yeah.
in order to provide that now for the future generations. And that's why it doesn't matter how I feel, because I have a mission to do, and I got to get up and do what I got to do regardless, because I got people down the line, my grandkids, that are going to benefit from my decisions today. And a lot of people don't think that
For
way.
sure.
They look at this, they look at today, and they're making decisions for today only. What about 10, 15 years down the
Right.
road? What about when you're gone? Your decisions that you're making are still going to be here, because your family won't be taken care of.
Yeah.
And it's just all selfishness, man.
Yeah. It is selfish. You're absolutely right. The decision is made now. You and your wife have both come to this decision. At this point, I think it might be something to note, like physically, what you were like. What were you weighing? How did you feel at that point? Because this is a big part of your recovery journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was 250 pounds. Okay, I'm 5'7", 250 at 5'7". Obviously, you could picture that, right? And that also led
Yeah.
into my addiction, my drinking. It stemmed from me not being happy with myself, you know? So what did I do? I
Right.
put a Band-Aid over it. I drank some beers and just covered it up and forgot about it. Over time, it multiplied. And that's where I was at, 250 pounds. Like I said, I always struggled a little
Wow.
bit with my weight growing up, but once I started drinking, man, eating like crap, you know, that comes with it. It just spiraled out of
It does.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all connected, man. I mean, from your mind to your habits to your body, everything is in alignment, you know.
Right.
So when you got your mind right, when you're eating correctly, your body's gonna just follow suit, and it's gonna reflect who you are as a person, right? So I realized, man, I had a huge discipline problem. You know, I couldn't control the food I was having, the drinks I was consuming. I couldn't control anything, and that's what led me to have that exterior who I wasn't proud of. You know, I was never
Right.
present with my family because I was either drunk or I was thinking about how I looked and how I felt. So being in SoCal, you're at the
Right.
beach, you're at the pool. Guess what I was thinking about? I was thinking about how could
Mm-hmm.
I grab a beer and how could I hide my body that I was ashamed of. So never really enjoying the
Right.
moment with my family, right? And they could feel that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah,
Right.
man, it ultimately led to me having those health issues. You know, I was pre-hypertension, diabetes running the family, so I was already on the road to that. I had to make a
Right.
change, you know, and that's why AA didn't necessarily work for me, was because I needed something more. AA, you sit around,
Okay.
it's a great thing. I have nothing against it. I still use some of it, but exercising, forming that discipline in order to change that. Once I found that, man, exercise was my cure. Like that was my thing that kept me sober. And
Okay.
ultimately it fixed the body, right? The body issues that I was having. So that's where I'm at today, man.
I remember a post that you made, or a story that you had, and you said at that moment you didn't know what else to do but do burpees
Yeah.
until you cried. You sat out in the garage and did burpees until you just couldn't, you just needed to keep moving,
Hmm.
keep moving, keep moving. And you were so motivated at that moment to, like, change the body, mind, and soul. And yeah, I really remember that post that you put. And I can completely relate to those moments, because that was exactly me too. I was way overweight when I was out there partying, um, mentally, physically, emotionally sick. And I needed to do that too. When I got sober, when I finally got serious about getting sober, I had to do something. For me, it was boxing and Muay Thai, and
Yeah.
the gym a little bit, but I needed something. I needed my body to be moving, because I couldn't sit still. If I sat still too long, I was going to
Yeah.
pick up a drink or a drug. And I needed something. I needed structure in my day. I needed some discipline and that's where the martial arts really helped me. Um, but yeah, can you talk a little bit about sort of what got you on the path then to fitness, and where you, because I want to talk about like what you're doing today, because that is so relevant and so inspirational, the way you coach others, and you're not just like you're not
Hmm.
a
Right.
trainer, you're a coach. Like, you're coaching people in mindset, nutrition,
Right.
and life, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
It's all
coaching people
encompassing.
to
Yeah.
completely change their vices, you know, remove their vices, become a better person, just become proud of who they are. And like I said, it's discipline. You know, once you form the discipline, you can control
Hmm.
anything. You can control the money that you're making, you can control your body, your habits. It all comes down from discipline. So, back to that point where I was doing burpees until I cried,
Right.
I needed to like get rid of whatever I was feeling, not through alcohol, because that's how I used to do it. I would push my body so far past that point,
Right.
I would start crying, and then I was just done after that. The last thing I wanted to do was grab a drink or do
Right.
anything. I just wanted to go inside and lay down on the floor, you know, and just completely just be done. So when you
Yeah.
push your body to that extreme, you're not thinking about drinking. You're not thinking about drugs. You're not thinking about you at that point. All you're
Right.
thinking about is breathing. You know, you're just trying to
Hmm.
get through that time that you just
Yeah.
went through, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why it worked for
Yeah.
me, and I'm an addictive guy, so I use that to my advantage now. Like, I'm
Yeah.
addicted to the good things now. I'm addicted to
Right.
bettering myself now. I'm addicted to being the best husband I can, the best
For
father I
sure.
can. So, in fact, my addiction has made me
Right.
this person. And I love that now, you know, like I wouldn't change it no more because now I'm able to use it to be this better person. And that's what I coach people to do. It's like, yeah, you might
Mm-hmm.
struggle with stuff. You were made to have these vices in order to get through them to become a better person. Because if you didn't have this addictive personality,
Right.
you wouldn't even want to work out, right? Like you fall in love with being that person who works out. Now it becomes this thing. It's like, I got to do it, you know? So that's what I help guys do, man,
For
is
sure.
we form discipline. That's what we do. We wake up early, we have a mandatory wake up, we stick to a certain nutrition plan, and we do this 7 days a week. You know, that's what's forming the discipline. That's what's changing
Right.
your mindset, is doing what's hard for you is what's going to ultimately work for you later on, because you can overcome that mindset. When you have a bunch of stuff like idle time, that's when you're going to want to drink, right? So fill your plate up with everything to
Right.
where every single day, every hour, I have something I'm doing. I'm rarely sitting around. And if I am sitting around, it's with my family or my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing something at that point, right? Quality time, right?
Quality
Watching a
time.
movie,
Yeah.
or it's never just
Right.
like me, like, what should I do today? Like, I always have something to do, and I do that on purpose. You know,
Right.
I'll overbook myself sometimes just to make sure
Yeah.
that, hey, I might need to switch some stuff around, but I'm not going to have time to sit at a bar. I'm not going to have time to go to the store and grab a six pack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, man. And that's
For sure.
what you got to do, man. If you're struggling with an addiction, if you're struggling with any type of vices, you need to find an outlet in order to where you don't have any time to think about it. Just be consistently focused on bettering yourself. So I
Mm-hmm.
tell people all the time, who do you want to be? You have to do everything every single day, every minute, to be in alignment with that person. So think to yourself, I want a beer right now. Is
Right.
this ultimately going to lead me to that person that I want to be? No. So I can't have a beer, right? And do I want this food right now? Is it going to help my body? Is this going to be who I want to be? No. Then I'm not going to have that right now. And when you go based off that stuff, it's very easy because you're just following in alignment with who you want to be.
Yeah.
And as long as you do that, you're going to come to become that person, right? So yeah, man,
Right.
it's
Right.
just you gotta keep yourself busy and occupied, or else you're gonna fall back into that rut, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And I'm very much the same. I need to stay busy as well. Idle time
Hmm.
is no good for me. And it's not that I think I'll pick up a drink or, call a dealer if I have idle time. It's just that I'm so obsessed with like pushing
Yeah.
forward to the next phase, and you know what I mean. And also, not only that, but being of service to others. So which is what you're ultimately doing here
Hmm.
as a coach, right? Like that's the ultimate service to others, is taking your knowledge and experience, sharing it with somebody else, and watching them grow. And not only watching them
Right.
grow, but they grow with you. I,
Yeah.
I really love that about it, right? Like you're all part of the same team, and you're waking up. You've got your mandatory wake up time. They've got their mandatory wake up time, but you guys are all accountable, like
Yep.
accountability partners almost, right? Like checking in with each other. And yeah, I love that. And I think that's what that community around anything in life is so important. The fellowship and the community of other people that are, um, you know,
Hmm.
on the same path and wanting to reach that same goal. And if we don't have that,
Right.
we'll stray. I mean, if we don't have our people that are pushing us and our reasons to move forward in that direction,
Hmm.
for sure we fall off. Like nobody is that strong that they can maintain that every day. And that's what I really like about the mentoring system or the coaching system. It's like, hey, this is a person I have to check in with and I have to be accountable to them. And then as a coach or a mentor, people are looking at me. And if I'm not walking my talk, they're going
Yeah.
to call me on my bullshit. Right. So it works. It's a circular thing that works so wonderfully for
Yeah.
everybody. And I love that. So you do a lot of
Hmm.
macro tracking, right? This is how you program your food.
Yeah, it's more of like a flexible dieting approach. You know, that's what I call it. We do use macros, yes,
Yeah.
but it's basically like, man, you're not restricted from any type of food. As long as they fit your numbers, your macros, you're more than
Hmm.
welcome to have it, which is going to be a more sustainable approach versus
Yeah.
like a keto, for example, where it's like you can't have no carbs. Carbs are bad, right? That kind of forms people to kind of have those
Right.
other not disabilities, but those fears of like carbs are bad. I can't have any carbs or else I'll be fat, and then the moment you have a carb, you're like, oh shit, like what did I do? I messed it up. So it all falls apart, so I have more of a flexible approach where I help people understand food is not bad, it's not good, it's just food, and there's certain numbers attached to this food, and as long as they could fit your numbers, you're good to go. You can have it. I got kids, man. We go out to pizza, we have burgers, right? Like, I don't make my kids follow a certain macro plan. They do it automatically because they see mom and dad do it, so they want to do it. Like my son's, my son's always right there. Example. Dad, what macros are these? And he's 4, and he's tracking it.
No
he
way.
Puts his, he puts his food on the
really?
scale, man, and pretends like he's doing what he's doing. And I'm like, you're good to go, amazing. Son. Go ahead, eat it up, But like, we go out and we have food.
What a wonderful habit.
It's better than having beers in my fridge and having my son go grab me a beer. No, instead, he's like, Dad, we want an apple? What are the macros on the apple? So he's learning this stuff. And he coaches, man. I have some videos up there where he's coaching people, like just by seeing me jump on video and stuff. Like, he does his own videos. Like, it's crazy. He'll grab his mom's phone and he's there in the closet. And I'm like, who's he talking to? And he's right there talking about macros, doing push-ups and stuff like that. I'm like, it brings me to tears, honestly, because it's like, man, like, I love seeing this so because amazing. It could have easily been the other way where he could have seen me drinking a lot and he could have been like how I was, downing beers at the age of 5,
Well, I mean, and he probably would have been, because look at him now at that young age talking about healthy, like, things that he can sustain for his whole life. But if he had seen the other version of you, he would still be emulating you and looking to you for all those social cues and the role model stuff. And that's the thing, people don't understand. Kids see everything, and it really, it really speaks to their or to your character to be able to, like, constantly show this this healthy mindset and you know what I mean, healthy habits, healthy behaviors. And everybody in the household, this is not a this is an abnormal thing, right? Like, people can, most kids grow up eating pizza, wings, hot dogs, fries, and and that's fine every once in a while, but like, they don't learn anything from that. If he's putting food on a scale already, and you know what I mean, you're setting him up for life. Like, that is fantastic.
I would say some people look at it, I've got comments and stuff like that, like, that's disgusting. Like, you're teaching your kid how to weigh food. Like, he shouldn't be worried about that. And I'm like, okay, well, is that disgusting, or is it my child developing insecurities because they're going to school overweight, obese, and getting bullied? You know what I mean? So which one is more disgusting? Because I think I'm teaching my son a healthy habit versus eating whatever you want and then going to school and being bullied about it, And that's where we don't correlate. Yeah, we don't correlate that. Agree. Like, you might not have a drinking problem, but what about your little brother that's watching you drink and he grows up to have that drinking problem? Where did he learn that from? He learned that from you.
Right.
You might be able to have 1 or 2 beers and be completely fine. Right. So I get a lot of backlash with that too. Like, alcohol's not bad. I could drink 1 beer and be completely fine. It's all about how you use it. Agreed. I don't have no judgment on alcohol. If you're somebody that can do that, great, go for it. But who's watching you, right? Because there's somebody watching you and they're going to see what you're doing and they're going to want to emulate that. What if they grow up to have the DUIs? What if they grow up to get in a car and kill somebody? How would you feel knowing that it was because of you? Right. You showed them that. So that's why it can't always be about us, right? We have to be willing to be selfless and be like, you know what, I can, but they can't. So I love my kid seeing that stuff, man, because I would hate for him to grow up, be in trouble, be in prison the rest of his life because he saw what dad was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to speak just a little bit more about that, like, I mean, you're not forcing your kid to weigh his food. He's seeing what dad's doing and saying, like, hey, that looks pretty fun. That looks cool. That's interesting. He's interested in your healthy lifestyle. That's totally different than forcing your kids to eat a certain way. He's interested. And I think that's the healthiest way to do it. And I totally agree with you that, you're building life skills for him to be set up for success. And you have the long view. Most people don't have that long view of, like, every move I make today is a move that is going to carry on through my child's life and their child's life, and so on and so on. So yeah, I appreciate that. And my wife and I, we track our macros, and we work with a coach here. You'd get along with him great. He's an awesome guy, and I wish that I could get my kid to put a fucking apple on the scale. But we don't force him to do anything. He gets curious about whatever he gets curious about, and but he's a good kid, and he's brought so much to my life. And I really just appreciate the fact that you come across as such a family person who takes care of his, like you say, your people. And I've learned a lot from you that way. And what piece of advice would you give the younger version of you, the 20-year-old version of you, if you could go back and as you today, what would you say to a younger 20-year-old version of Richard?
I always think about that, man. And I'm like, what would I have told myself back in the day? But I'm the type of person that had to go through this in order to learn from it. Like somebody could tell me, hey, that's going to mess you up later down the road. I would have said, who cares? Like, worry about yourself. Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So I would have told myself to maybe be more coachable, take some advice from somebody that's been through it. And if they're telling you like, man, this is really going to lead you down the wrong path, you should change this, you should maybe take that into consideration, right? And just realize that not everything out there that's supposed to be beneficial or good for you is always beneficial or good for you, right? So like you going out to a party, having 1 or 2 beers to relax, maybe that's not for you, you know? So you have to really figure out what's for you, what's not. And ultimately, you got to make the decision. Who do you want to be in 30 years from now? What kind of money you want to have? What kind of family do you want? What type of person do you want to be like? Now, do the steps every single day to become that person. Because nobody wakes up saying, I want to be an alcoholic. I want to be put in prison. I want to lose my family, right? No, everybody has certain goals that they want to achieve. At least you should. So every single day, you need to be doing something that's going to lead you into that path, whether it's big or small. I always say, start with your habits, wake up early, do the little things right. And ultimately, that's going to lead into doing the big things right later on, So my main piece of advice for somebody is, who do you want to be when you grow up? Or what's that type of person you want to be like? Now be in alignment with that person every single day and make sure you're doing the steps to get there. And that's it.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Take the steps. What would that person in 30 years do? Like, would that person say, yes, that's a good idea today to eat that burger? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it takes a focus off of you during that time, because yes, you in that situation, in that time, you want that burger, but you also want to be that guy that's 30 years old, ripped up, shredded with a hot wife, right? So is that going to lead you to that point?
Sure.
If it's not, then probably don't have it. And so it's very easy to say, okay, cool, I'm okay, because I know who I want to be and I have a vision for myself, and this isn't going to lead me to that vision, right? So it's kind of like looking at yourself from a third person point of view of like, yes, I feel like having this, but I know it's not good for me. I'm going to put it away. And that's forming discipline right there to become that person later on.
Yeah. Do you coach a lot of younger people?
It's 18 and older. So I do have a lot of like
18
younger,
and older, okay.
Yeah, a lot of 20-year-olds, a lot of like, 23, 24-year-olds, which, man, they're already getting the help that I needed, when I was in my 30s. So they're going to be a lot more advanced and above if they follow it, which I love, man. I love helping those guys. That's like the perfect age right there, because that was me. That's where I needed my help at when I was like 21. If I had myself or a coach like me, I probably would have avoided a lot of the pain that I went through, So they're kind of ahead of the game in that regard. Plus they have, a kid, a 1 or 2-year-old baby that they really need to start thinking about. So they are doing those steps. The guys that are on my program, they are thinking that way. They're like, man, I know like what I'm doing right now isn't going to work later on. I need help now so I could avoid your story. And that's what a lot of guys tell me. It's like, dude, I don't want to go through what you went through. Like that shit scares me. I'm like, you don't need to. As long as you take care of it now, you'll be good.
Yeah. I kind of like that. Like as a coach, like I've made all the mistakes for you already. Now let me show you how to avoid them. Like I've fucked up enough, And I can tell you from my mistakes, this is the way to go. And, you know, before you have to go through the hardship that I did, let me save you like so much heartache and, and everything else that comes with it. You know, I'm very much like you in that I think that I wouldn't be who I am today had I not gone through the things that I did. But I also, there's times when I think, I wonder if, because I do a lot of like one-on-one, this is in the recovery, like alcohol, addiction world, one-on-one work with people. And I work with a lot of younger people, like even high school age that are, going down the wrong path. And I always, I catch myself every once in a while thinking like, man, how different would life have been for me if I had somebody like that? And I don't wish it for myself because I can't change the past, but that's the motivation there that kind of just like, I've made the mistakes for you. Let me kind of tell you how it plays out. Like you didn't have somebody to play the tape all the way to the end. Or I didn't have somebody to play the tape all the way to the end when I was that age, but I'm here for you now, and I can tell you how it turns out. And so let's go the other way. Yeah.
Everybody looks at me. They probably look at you too, all tatted up, and it's like, what do you really have to provide to somebody? I'm like, man, I've been through it. That's what I have to provide. Like I can tell you exactly when you hit a wall, what's going to happen next if you go this way or if you go this way. So use my firsthand
life experience.
Use my compass, man, because I've already laid it out for you. I got the blueprint for you. I'm going to tell you where to avoid, what to stop at, and then it's up to you to make that decision. But you need a coach that's been through it, right? You need somebody that actually knows firsthand.
Yeah.
Me, I wouldn't personally have listened to somebody that never struggled with anything, that never struggled with the vices that I struggle with, because I'm like, dude, what do you know about my life? Like, you don't know what I'm feeling. You don't know what I'm going through.
Right.
You've never struggled with this addiction, right? So how can you possibly help me? And that's where you have to do. Like, you have to find somebody that you resonate with, that can help you, but has also been through it and has been successful, because obviously your way isn't working, theirs is. And that's where you got to kind of be coachable, just be coachable, in that regard. And that's what I wish I would have done when I was younger, is just listen. I was so hard-headed that I wouldn't have listened to nobody. I had to learn the hard way, so I would have wished I would have been a little bit more coachable and just been like, okay, you know what you're talking about. Let me try that,
Me too. It was more like somebody told me, this is how it's going to end up. And I'd say, watch me prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And I'd fucking 5 years later. Yeah, you're right. You were right. And then some.
Yeah. But that's a good thing too. When people have that, it's like a double-edged sword, because you're so committed to like, watch me do this, that if you could do that with like the good stuff, like so many people have told me, you're going to fail at your coaching. Like, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Watch me. Yeah. I'm like, watch me. Look, I am so freaking focused on this. My passion is to help so many people. I can't fail. I already count myself successful because I've quit my 9-to-5 job that I hated. Right. I beat my addiction. I got my family back. Everything else is just icing on the cake from here on out. And as long as I don't go backwards, I've already become successful, man. I don't need to make, all this crazy amount of money to feel successful.
Right.
It's all about a feeling, and me being in alignment with that, ultimately I am going to be successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, man. That's beautiful. I mean, I can't imagine anybody who would look at you and think that you wouldn't be successful in your coaching career, because, I know that must be coming from a place of envy or jealousy. Because honestly, the way you tell your story, the way you talk to the camera, it's so, you put everything together so eloquently, but also you're not a soft guy. You know what I mean? Like you're
right.
You tell it like it is. And I said this to you on the break, like you should be talking to groups of people. You should be talking to like high schools. You should be good in high schools telling your story, because the way you tell it and your story and kind of the progression and where you were and what happened and what it's like today, it's just so inspiring. And you know what I mean? Everything about you is it's just that. It's, you've overcome adversity after adversity and taken that adversity and flipped it around to inspire yourself and others. So, man, I really
Thank you,
appreciate
man.
that of
I
you.
really appreciate that. No, thank you likewise, and who knows, man, who knows what the future holds for me. I'm willing to do whatever, to help other people. So
Yeah.
it'd be great to have that opportunity. So
Yeah. Yeah, man, I could totally see that for you. Um,
thank you.
Anyways, man, I just really want to like thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. Like, I mean it when I say that. Like, I feel like I know you so well already just from interacting with you on social media, and that to me, like, social media can be such a shitty place, but when I find people like yourselves, like yourself, and other people that I've met there, then it actually, formed real relationships with.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit it's just through texting back and forth or whatever, but you get a glimpse of their life, and the way you display your life and your family, it inspires me every time I look at your stuff, and I see it daily. So
Thank you.
it brings a smile to my face. It inspires me to be a better man and a better father, and for that, man, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming in and being so open, honest, and vulnerable with us.
Of course, man. Thank you.
All right,
The
man.
feeling's mutual.
Okay, and finally, Richard, where can people find you online if they're looking to inquire about coaching or just connect with you at all?
You can go on my Instagram, warpath.fit. That's where you could pretty much just get in contact with me, shoot me a DM. I do have a link on there if you want to apply for coaching, but just reach out. Let me know what you're dealing with, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Cool. All right, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.